qui nous vient de l'OMS, région Émeraude.
Okay.
Lui, il va nous parler des défis réglementaires des biosimilaires. Mr. Abdallah.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdallah Abu Talib. I'm working for WHO. Would you mind to make my presentation mix between Arabic and English, or you make it pure English? Arabic. هتكلم بالعربية between Arabic and English. The presenter in English and Arabic for make better communication. Okay? Okay. أنا هحاول المحاضرة بتاعتي تكون مختصرة علشان وقتكم وعلشان إن إحنا اتأخرنا. أنا بتكلم updating biosimilar knowledge, regulation and policies. What is the job of a regulator? You are a regulator. اوكي الريجوليتور ده بيعمل ايه؟ هنشوف دلوقتي الريجوليتور بيعمل ايه. الريجوليتور بيعمل حاجتين هو مسؤول عنهم: policies and regulations. الفانكشن بتاعت البوليسيز والريجوليشنز Excuse me. I will use my presenter, please. So you change the old presenter into mine, please. I give them. Mine.
It's okay.
It's okay? I will use mine. Thank you.
Okay.
Public policy, what government acting on our behavior choose do or not to do. A policy is a statement of government introduced to do or not. من الآخر البوليسي بتعلمنا نحط قواعد. ليه احنا بنتكلم على الكلام ده؟ لأن احنا بنتكلم على جايد لاينز. الجايد لاينز لو ما اتحطتش جوه بوليسي وجوه سيستم هتبقى جايد لاينز غير قابلة للتطبيق. What some examples for these levels of policy? I will take about regulatory policy, one of the policies. احنا عندنا كذا نوع من انواع البوليسي، بس انا هتكلم على الهيلث بوليسيز، واحنا عملنا تقييم للكفاءة، مدى كفاءة البوليسيز and what is the effect of policies. We have a protective regulatory, a comparative regulatory, protection of particular trades or professions, usually at the state level. This is licensing. This is what regulatory body in every country, in every nation are working on this. Steroids are example for regulatory. And health policy defined are public policies or authoritative decisions that pertain to health or influence subsist of health. Health policies affect or influence groups or classes of individuals or organizations. This is only just words. If I don't have system to put the policy in it, I don't have nothing. So I should have a system. A system, an interaction of parties and their interaction to came together for a purpose. انت بتحط قواعد البايسيميلرز، انت بتحط قواعد تسجيل في البلد لاوبجيكتيف معين. اوقات كتير بيقولوا احنا الريجوليتور ما بيكونش منحاز. انا مع الانحياز، بس انك تبقى منحاز ايجابي. انا بنحاز دايما للمريض، بنحاز دايما للكفاءه بتاعت المستحضر، بنحاز دايما للسيفتي، بنحاز ان انا ادي للمريض بتاعي احسن خدمه صحيه باقل تكلفه ممكنه. System and non-system, if there is no purpose for the system, it will be non-system, okay? And they defined traditional health system, the combination of resources, organization, financing, and management that accumulate in the delivery of health services to the population. This is by Rumors, 1991. All the activities whose primary purpose to promote, restore, or maintain health. This is WHO definition at 2000. Okay, and now it is also complicated to have a system, still complicated. Why regulate? احنا ما بنعملش regulation من اجل regulation to ensure safety, efficacy and quality. No drug product is completely safe or efficacious in all circumstances, but there is a moral as well as legal expectations that appropriate steps are taken to assure optimal quality, safety, and efficacy by the producers concerned, beneficial versus risk. What about the updates of biosimilars? عشان اعمل updating للبايوسيميلر جايد لاينز لازم اعرف introduction to regulatory impact analysis. This is one of the science that dealing with regulatory science, with regulatory bias. Why improve regulatory quality? Improve the effect. Tight physical budget. Regulatory system play a central role in improving both citizens and investor confidence. Engaging the regulatory reform to improve regulatory quality has proven a highly effective option for economic development. احنا محتاجين نعمل التست ده على كل regulatory body. Improving quality, regulatory quality is a regulatory system. We have stockholders, an institutional arrangement, regulatory policy, multi-level governance. We need to stock of regulations. We need to regulatory reform, burden of reduction, administrative simplification. أنا عايز أقول لكم إن التعقيد في الإجراءات بيؤدي إلى إن المريض ممكن ما ياخدش علاجه. التعقيد في الإجراءات ممكن يخلي المريض ياخد علاج في وقت متأخر. أنا في حالة في مصر الأسبوع اللي فات ضايد بسبب إن قرار علاج المفروض يطلع لها في أسبوع، في يوم طلع في أسبوع الحالة ضايد. الكومبليكيشن مش في مصلحة حد طالما في الآخر السيستم بتاعي قوي. flow of regulation, coordination, regulatory impact analysis ده واحد من الاناليسيز اللي المفروض اي regulatory body واي هيلث بوليسي في العالم المفروض يعمله. regulatory conversion cycle, starting policy issue, developing policy regulations, other policy tools, design new regulation, enforce regulation, monitor and evaluating platforms. So the 4C: consultation, coordination, cooperation, communication. This is the core for any regulatory. الريجولاتري على فكره مش لازم يكون على نطاق دوله. لو حد في صيدليه، حد في مستشفى بيعمل ريجوليشن للادويه، لو حد في شركه بيعمل ريجوليشنز، في الاخر اتس ماتر اوف ريجوليشنز. ابديتس اوف بايوسيميلرز. احنا ليه بنعمل الابديتس؟ احنا عندنا كذا بروسبكتيف. احنا بندور على ايميا ابروفال او اف دي ابروفال او جابانيز ابروفال او نيوزيلنديان ابروفال او فنلنديان ابروفال. ذيس از اوكي، ده كويس. بس السؤال، انا ما عنديش مشكله في الدواء اللي جاي لي من الايميا والاف دي اي، انا مشكلتي في الادويه اللي مش واخده اف دي اي وايميا، ودي مشكله بواجهها في الدول العربيه كتير. عشان كده كان في سؤال بيطرح نفسه: Can we use the same approval pathway of generics for biologicals؟ في الأول لازم نعرف إن البلاد برودكت and vaccine cannot take the biosimilar guidelines. This is by law of WHO. أي حد بيشتغل في الفاكسينز مع WHO they will hear about concept WHO pre-qualified vaccines. These are criteria. If the company, if the country fulfills this criteria, it will be qualified, pre-qualified, and also for blood project. For biosimilars, it's a debatable thing. This is the structure and the complexity of biological product. It's very complicated, and this is very complicated. If you go to the manufacturing process, it's also very complicated. So the process is a product. لو البروسيس اتغيرت, we are talking about new products. This is from the perspective of manufacturing. So the manufacturing process is very complex. It needs regulation. You should know what is going on. Manufacturing process changes are common for all biologics. This is nature of biologics. Manufacturing process changes, so this is the variability of batches for the same product between different countries. This leads to quality matters. We should and we must guarantee the quality. We should make the process that guarantee the quality. In Egypt, we are a low middle income countries. For all biological products imported from outside or manufacturing local, batch by batch should be analyzed and containing batch release or free cell or report release, but it should be analyzed. This is how we work with biological product in Egypt. There is associated risk of biosimilars starting from in-process control of growth and culture. This is why manufacturing is important. Consistency and reproductivity, long-term stability, impurity, immunogenicity, controlling critical biomanufacturing steps. This is the associated risks. This is lead to protein glycosylation. Differential in glycosylation may change the effect, the stability for the product. Different glycosylation can affect receptor binding. Different glycosylation can affect protein function. Specific glycine structure may affect safety, immunogenicity, activity, or clearance. ساعات الافكت بيبقى بوزيتيف وساعات بيبقى نيجاتيف، بس هو بيغير. علشان كده we should guarantee the process. علشان كده هم قالوا biologicals are hard to copy. Minor variation, impurities, heterogeneity, biological function, characterization. This is the characterization of biologicals. Comparability exercises in quality of drug substance. There is a general principle to ensure the similarity of drug substance in similar biological product versus reference biological product. Reference standards, product should expressed and produced in the same host cell type. This is general principles for manufacturing process, expressions vectors, cell banks, cell cultures, fermentation, harvest, purification. All the process should be examined, and even dosage form, container system. ليه انا بقول لكم الكلام ده؟ سنه 2011 في مصر كان عندنا لوكال بايوسيميلر. فجاه لقينا كان اريثروبويتين، فجاه لقينا 5 we are found that 25 death cases for CKD patient on dialysis. علشان كده لما عملنا كوزاليتي اكتشفنا ان كان في مشكله في الكونتينر سيستم ادت للاميونوجينيستي وحصلت حالات الوفاه. علشان كده احنا محتاجين نضمن الكواليتي بتاعت البرودكت بتاعنا. immunogenicity testing is essential. مفيش اي evidence. There is no evidence that biosimilar products introduced to EMA or FDA got serious adverse reaction. But also, immunogenicity doesn't come from biosimilar only. It comes also from biological product. It's Ibrix case when they're changing the labeling process. They introduced pure red cell aplasia. It is one of the fatal cases of CKD patient. Also, immunogenicity of GMCS. It is one of the famous immunogenicity cases for biological product. Highly regulated market ensure safe biosimilar medicine through requirements which include head-to-head analytical non-clinical testing against the references originator in addition to regulatory authorities such as European Medicine or FDA. Okay. Immunogenicity and restructure. This is differences between biosimilar product and innovator product in the immunogenicity. Also, this is a fingerprint. When you're making a fingerprint, لو لاحظت انت بتتكلم we are talking about sequences of modification, higher order structure, bioactivity, glycoforms, purity, profile. This is lead to totality of evidence. لما تحكم على حاجة ما تحكمش من وجهة نظر واحدة. You cannot just judge based on structure only or function only or non-clinical studies only. You should judge based on the totality of evidence. You should taking into consideration this concept when you're judging, when you regulate, when you're taking a decision. Also, one of the biosimilars challenges is pharmacovigilance. Pharmacovigilance need different approaches for guaranteeing safety and efficacy of biosimilars. This is report in 2015 about adverse reaction of biosimilar product and also innovator product. And also this is reports about adverse reaction for innovator and biosimilar product starting from 2015. And this is a paper in Egypt we're conducting for how can post-marketing surveillance can guarantee safety and efficacy of biosimilars. We're taking our local experience for vaccines and adopt for guaranteeing safety and efficacy. Why we do this? Because data is a real teacher. التيك هوم مسج من الثلاثه سلايدز اللي فاتوا دو وات ايفر يو دو. اعمل قواعدك في بلدك زي ما انت عايز، بس بشرط لازم تكون عارف بالظبط انت عايز ايه. لازم يكون عندك داتا. من غير الداتا انت اعمى. يو كانوت سي without data. من غير داتا مش هتعرف تاخد قرار، والداتا لازم تكون صح. عشان كده data is a real teacher. The definition of biosimilarity in USA versus EU. If you look to USA, they go highly similar. In EU similarly biologicals. ده يؤدي الى وهم بياخدوا القرار في الابروفال باس واي الاي يو بيجبرك ان يكون عندك بوست ماركتنج ستاديز. الاف دي اي مش بيجبرك. ده بناء على الديفينيشن بتاعه. حط الديفينيشن بتاعك زي ما انت عايز بس حط قواعدك بناء على الديفينيشن بتاعك. علشان كده برضو استخدمنا اللوكال داتا بتاعتنا علشان نضمن السيفتي اند افيكاسي في الانترتشنجابيلتي بيزد اون الديفينيشن اوف يو ديسيشن كونتري ليفل for FDA, yes, if necessary, FDA-based adequate clinical data. Tips, be aware of which biosimilar product is being prescribed and used. Prescribe using the proper name or trade name with suffix. Contribute to local pharmacovigilance efforts. Monitor long-term safety pharmacovigilance. Encourage transparency in drug characterization. احنا ما سكتناش عند كده بس، احنا انشأنا Arabic Network Biological Stockholders. This is network بتجمع كل regulatory body على مستوى العالم العربي اللي عايز يشترك فيها. This is the email اللي عايز يشترك فيها، اللي عايز يعرف اي ديتا عن البيولوجيكالز في العالم العربي. It's governmental network. All regulatory body all over Arabic countries are welcoming. This is my email. اشكركم، اتمنى ان ما زودتش عن ال5 دقائق اللي طلبهم مني دكتور رضوان.
شكرا على المحاضرة القيمة. Donc maintenant on passe à la séance débat et on va commencer par la première conférence du docteur Niazi. Y a-t-il des questions pour le docteur Niazi concernant les aspects réglementaires du FDA? Il n'y a pas de questions? All is clear. Thank you. On passe à la deuxième conférence, l'intervention du docteur Andrea Laslop concernant les aspects réglementaires EMEA. Mr. Jordan.
I would have a question for everybody. Would the pharmacist have the experience and knowledge to make a substitution from a brand name to a biosimilars? Your point of view will be interesting because of safety, because of knowledge, because of all what we heard until now.
I can answer.
You can't.
But you first. Okay. I will take you. I can take the two rules. The rule of regulator. I have the hat of regulator and also have a hat of policymaker. Switching, based on first of all interchangeability. It must be found in the clinical trial. Two, it is not the decision only for pharmacists. It's the decision of pharmacist plus physician. It's multi-criteria decision. I cannot take this decision based on pharmacist knowledge. This is a multi-criteria, but first we should go to the interchangeability during clinical trial. It is found or not. It's based on the evaluation of interchangeability, and after that, switching, it's a multi-criteria decision combined between physician and pharmacist. And if you want my opinion, I don't want to make it by opinion. I want to make it by guidelines. So every hospital, every nation, every country make local guidelines for switching based on the nature of the health system.
I think that's a very significant consideration because there's a lot of talk about interchangeability. As you know, FDA has yet to approve the first product. They haven't done it because the protocols required. Again, I'll take you back to BPCIA. It uses the two words, switching and alternating. You have to do both to qualify, which is extremely difficult, and I don't know if anybody's going to do it or not. Going back to, there is a big push now that will be coming out soon from FDA to recommend that for a naive patient, for a new patient, the prescriber should consider using a biosimilar product. The theme behind this is that most patients do not stay on the biologic drug too long. Oncology, you know, and others, okay? So hopefully, and to drive that, the only way it will drive this process if the price goes down. Then the payers take over and they go on and force the use of it. In terms of the actual safety, you know, if there are two biosimilars approved, to be interchangeable, first you have to be biosimilar. Then you get the second stage, which is called interchangeable biosimilar. So if you look at the, I'm talking about mathematical laws here, okay? So this product is considered safe and effective, all right? Without any question, okay? Here's the innovator product, safe and effective. Now how about if you're using one biosimilar and then you move to second biosimilar, okay? How would that be viewed, okay? Because there's no laws about that, okay? In my opinion, and the experience I have, there isn't that much difference between in the safety part of it, and at least in US, the physician has complete right to change the product. If you are on a brand product, he can write a biosimilar, nobody will stop him. When you go to interchangeability part, it's all legal. Can the pharmacist do it or not? That is the money part of it just playing in the picture. But I think this whole thing will be resolved more at the prescriber level, okay, rather than the pharmacist level.
After 2 years, exactly 2 years, we will talking about 3 or 4 generations of biosimilar. The question is much more be wider. How it changed from first generation of to second generation or third generation. So it's a matter of regulations. In my opinion, I cannot take this issue for individual decisions. It should be in regulation to avoid lack of knowledge, lack of decisions, lack of communication, a lot of lacks. So it should be put in a form of regulation and policy.
Okay, thank you. Andrea, you have any comment?
Yes, thank you for the question. It's really one that goes to the heart of the matter. And I think it is important. In Europe, we have a bit of a different situation because the regulators in Europe who are approving most of these biosimilars, which is the EMA, are not, they don't have the right to say whether it is interchangeable or not, because this is truly a political decision that is taken in every single member state separately. This is why EMA and we in our assessment reports also do not make really comments about it. However, I could say that once we approve a biosimilar, we would scientifically consider it as being interchangeable, because then we had seen either no differences in efficacy and safety or such small differences which we consider as being acceptable within the range of variability what is being seen in the general use of a drug. So scientifically, practically, we would consider all of those biosimilars to be interchangeable and switchable. The political decision and approach to that is very different, and it has also evolved over the years, because initially most of the member states were against. Then some were a bit more provocative or open to the question. It was specifically the Scandinavian countries who opened up very early. And then a number of other countries followed and made the next step and said, yes, it can be switched, but we still recommend that biosimilars are only used when treatment is started. So not when a patient is already on an originator to really switch it, but just to start treatment in a new patient with biosimilars. Now, over the years, this has again proven to be not a real practical approach, and what determines now the price in most of the countries, and I have seen some data also from the Scandinavian countries, is truly the price. It is according to the tenders, and whichever company beats the lowest price is going to have the tender and is going to be, and then in fact physicians are even forced in those countries to use those drugs. So there is no longer any question of switching then on the physician's decision, but it is practically prescribed to them that they have to use the cheapest product. And that has gone now, because we have some of those products now for many years with a number of different biosimilars, so we have already seen the switch from one biosimilar to the next. It's not only from the originator to the biosimilar. Two more sentences just. Coming back to your question, would the physician be qualified to do that? I think in principle, yes. I would not see any problem also with the physician. However, I think something that may work again differently in different member states depending how the setup is in the healthcare system. If the physician is not informed that the patient has been receiving a new biosimilar, I would see here the potential for some concern, because this decision should be taken with a view to explain and educate the patient that he or she should really report if all of a sudden some adverse event or some loss in efficacy would be developed, because then that would need to be back reported to the physician, and we joined a circle where we say we don't have enough safety pharmacovigilance reporting. So my only concern would be that then some adverse events might go unnoticed because the patient would not know enough. But that again would depend on how much a pharmacist is able to explain. It's traditionally not very much done in Austria, maybe in other countries.
If I can resume the answer from the safety of the product from biosimilar and a brand name, for the patient is not no problem, but the risk is not bigger than a generic substitution. The policy matters and the political issue is another one. Yeah, but just safety for patient, biosimilar or brand is quite.
Yes, I would, again, I very much agree with you. I would not see any difference between the biosimilar and the brand. I would not go as far as comparing it with the generics, because the immunogenicity issue with the biologicals is a separate ballpark where we may have to be a bit more cautious, and that was my suggestion, to say it would be very important that the patient is adequately informed about that switch, so that he or she is aware of going to the doctor or report to whomever, maybe also directly to the authorities when an adverse event which goes into the direction of immunogenicity, but of course, in essence, any adverse event would appear.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank our panel for the very nice presentations. And my question is maybe for all the panel is, in terms of safety, back to the Jordan's question, safety and the quality. What are the, in terms of assessment, what are the tools that you are using that, to make sure that the product is safe, and also in terms of the quality, that we has the good quality requested? And the question is, for the emerging market countries, do we have the tools in order to make sure that we have good products in terms of quality and maybe safety that can be assessed in technical dossier or something? But in terms of quality, we don't have maybe the infrastructure and the different tools in order to make sure that we have the good product. So in your maybe your experience, we are not comparing FDA, maybe in EMA, they have the resources to do it, but from the emerging market, what can be maybe the criteria that we can use to make sure that we have good products in terms of quality and safe product?
You want to respond?
Okay. First, we should subsidize or classify the product into EMEA or FDA approved, or it's a local product. If it is EMEA, I'm talking for my daily working with the regulatory body in Egypt or in Jordan. If it is EMEA approved, so or FDA approved, the reports we have for all products, quality module, clinical trial module, module 4 or module 5 or module 6. So we evaluate all these modules. Evaluation of these modules based on the EMEA guidelines or FDA guidelines for the approval process. So we have the checklist like EMEA or FDA. This is which is if the product's coming from EMEA or FDA. The issue is starting when the product is local manufacturing or coming from non-reference country. In this case, we in Egypt, we for example, last week I have a case for erythropoietin coming from non-reference country. So he changing some products, stabilizer from one product to another. So I mandatory him that he should make a clinical trial in Egypt based on he changing the stabilizer, because it's a major variation. Why? Because I have a history for this product from my database that it has a quality problem and safety problem. So every regulatory body should make their own criteria of evaluation and its own criteria for making a decision based on the knowledge, based on the resources, based on the nature of the system. And the key message is the wheel are already invented. So I will give you a case. There was a product, immunotherapy product. It take a fast track registration from FDA for 6 or 5 indications. And after that, in Egypt, we evaluate the product and we found that the 2 indications, the clinical trial is non-efficient and non-sufficient for us for taking the approval for these 2 indications. And we refused these 2 indications. After 3 weeks, FDA withdraw the approval for these 2 indications based on new data for the clinical trial. Why? This is based on the efficiency of the regulatory body and the technicality of the regulatory body. It is not a man working, it's a system working.